Welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. It is Wednesday, March the 6th. We're coming to you right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios and 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. Thank you, all you people out there who listen to the show. Appreciate your feedback that you give us through our text line, which is 806-794-0400. And through social media, and then just through the comments that you have when you come into the office. We got we've had some new patients that listen to the show and are wanting a healthier life, and so we really appreciate those people coming into the office. It's always a pleasure to get to know you, get to meet you, get to find out what's going on in your life, and see if we can help you make it better. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it better with education. One of my girls in here tonight, I was breaking down supplements for her, and I'm going to break them down for you the way I was breaking them down for her just a few minutes ago. And she was like, I always learn more when I come in here than I learn at school. She's like a senior in high school, I think. And then she told me that today. And I was like, hey, that's pretty awesome. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to share with you all the information that we know so that you can have as healthy a life as possible. That's my goal. That's what we do every night on the show. That's what this whole thing is about. So we're really glad that you're listening, and we're really glad that you're hopefully taking some of this stuff to make your life better. So if you have comments tonight and you want to send them in, got something you want me to talk about, send them to me. If you watched last night's show, I broke down my blood work. I'm not going to get into it tonight and go through, but we do have it. One of the listeners on the radio made a statement to me today and said, I wish that we could hear the show again. There was something you were saying, and I just can't remember what it was. So I just want you to, if you guys are listening to us on the radio, you can always go back to our Facebook page. It's the Rock Health and Wellness Centers on Facebook. It's at Health from the Rock on YouTube. And then it's Jason Clemmons DC on X, which used to be Twitter. So if you guys want to catch some of those old shows, or you want to go back, if you're listening to it on the radio and you want to go back and hear it again, then you can. So just like last night's show, we did blood work, and I just felt like it was important that I shared that with you to be as transparent as possible, to make sure that that you can see that, it's like you can live a relatively healthy life. I wouldn't say I live a perfectly healthy life, but you can live a relatively healthy life without drugs and surgery, especially without pharmaceuticals for the most part. So, and here's the article of the day that I found this morning. I was reading, and this one popped up. I thought it would be good to talk about, not because I'm telling you to take or not take a vaccine. That doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about, right? But I want to talk about it because no one else may talk about it. But this comes out of the University of California at San Francisco, and it's alarming news for the shingles vaccine recipients. Getting the recombinant zoster's shingles vaccine, if you have had an ocular shingles event, meaning if you got shingles in your eye, and then if you got shingles in your eye, then this may increase your risk of experiencing a second event, a recent study shows. Ocular shingles refers to shingles that manifest in the eye area. Milder cases of ocular shingles typically occur near the eyelids, while more severe cases may cause inflammation inside the eyes and potentially lead to blindness. Researchers at the University of California at San Francisco found that, compared to unvaccinated people with a history of ocular shingles, those who received the recombinant zoster vaccine have 1.64 times the risk of developing ocular shingles again. It's not a huge increased risk, lead author Dr. Nisha Acharya, director of Uveitis and Ocular Inflammation Disease Services at UC San Francisco, told the Epoch Times. To my knowledge, it's the first data that we have on risk of reactivation following zoster vaccination for the for the patient population who already have the disease, I think it raises some questions. Shingles is caused by the chickenpox varicella virus. So you get chickenpox when you're a young child, and your body's going to attack that chickenpox virus, and it's going to store it in the ganglia, which is a nerve cell body in the peripheral nervous system. It's going to store that inside that, and which let me just slow down just a second, because what does peripheral nervous system mean? And for some of you, you may not know that. Just so that you kind of understand where that is coming from. So you've got your brain, and then you've got your spinal cord, you got your cerebellum, and then you got your spinal cord that's coming off your brain. And then you got your cauda equina down here at the bottom. And so that's your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is your brain and spinal cord. But then what about all these nerves in your arms and legs? What about all these nerves that come around your ribs, right? Well, those are called peripheral nerves. So you've got all the nerves that go out to the arms and legs, and then you've got the nerves that come around with all of your ribs, and those nerves actually plug in. So I had this conversation earlier this week. I think it was on Monday. You want to talk about something that'll blow your mind, and I've mentioned it on the show before, is the central nervous system is separate from the peripheral nervous system, and during embryological development, the peripheral nervous system plugs into the central nervous system. The nerves out here grow, your spinal cord grows, and the nerves plug in. Blew my mind when I found that information out. There's 1 billion neurons in your spinal cord. Like, you take a billion nerves in your spinal cord, and you're going to plug in a peripheral nerve from the outside, and somehow you're going to do that in a way that works. All these. How many of you guys have been watching the show for a while, right? If you've been watching the show for a while, you know dang well that I don't do a very good job with all this technology that's up here, right? I put my headphones back on because my AirPods were cutting out on my speakers, and then I was getting ready to do the show, and then I didn't have any sound, and it was flipping back and forth, and I was like, man, I got too many things going on right here. But I got a Scarlett Focusrite little switchboard here. I got another thing that allows me to have my cordless mic that's going on. I got cords running. I got 14 USB things plugged into this iMac. Like, all this stuff is going on, right? I don't have 1 billion neurons I got to plug into. I just got maybe a dozen little wires or something over here, right? Can you imagine the complex thing that's going on with the peripheral nervous system right there, to be able to say, wow, I just remember sitting in embryology class at chiropractic school just thinking to myself, whew, man, and that somehow is random. Like, I don't think so. But anyway, let's get back to it. The peripheral nervous system. So what you've got is you've got these things called ganglia, and they kind of set off in through here. And what your body will do is it will use those ganglia to basically put the chickenpox virus in jail. It's basically what it does. So when your white blood cells attack, bam, they take the virus, they put it in jail right there. And as long as your immune system is strong, then that virus just stays in that ganglia, like it's trapped in there. It can't get out. But if your immune system gets weak, if it gets compromised, then what happens is those things start to leak out. They start to escape. And when they do, a lot of times they'll follow the nerve, because you have a vertebrae and you have a transverse process, and then you have a rib that comes in here, and it attaches to the transverse process and to the body of the vertebrae, and then the rib comes around to the front, and then you got a sternum on the front, and the rib attaches to the sternum, and then at the upper parts of the ribs, and then the ribs will come around and then come down, and there's a cartilage, and then all that cartilage kind of works itself back up on that side too. Well, along that rib, along the ridge of that rib, you also have a nerve, and that nerve connected to that ganglia will just kind of follow that rib right around. You got another one that just kind of follows around and another one that follows around. So when you get shingles, what has happened is your immune system has become compromised. Your virus has escaped from jail, and now it's coming around and it's expressing itself as a horrible rash that hurts like crazy, and it really is a mess to get shingles. It could be super bad for you, but it's like that's why a lot of times you get it on your rib cage, like you get it coming around your back or following that rib, or you've got those ganglia and that nerve that comes through your face, and you could get that coming along in your eye, and so that is it's an unfortunate thing to get shingles. It's an unfortunate thing to get chickenpox, but most of the time we handle it and we get through it pretty good. But what this article is saying is roughly 10% to 20% of people who contract shingles will develop ocular shingles, according to the American Academy of Neurology. While shingles reoccurrence on the skin is common and usually a sign of the latent virus acting up, there may be another mechanism to explain ocular reoccurrences: your immune system reacting against some remnant of the prior infection. Because the vaccine activates the immune system, it may cause the body to react and target a viral-related remnant in the eye, leading to recurrence of ocular shingles, she said. There may not be active replicating virus anymore, but you can sometimes have inflammation because your immune system is reacting against what we call viral antigens, or parts of the virus of the segment related to that prior infection. So, if you've had it in your eye, there's some evidence, according to the University of California at San Francisco, that you might be, when you get the shingles vaccine, you might actually be increasing your chances of getting it in your eye again. I don't really care so much about talking so much about the vaccine. You guys know I'm not a vaccine guy. If you listen to the show very long, not interested in it. Didn't vaccinate my kids. Not going to if I ever have any more kids. Just kidding. And but I'm not taking any flu shots. Not doing any COVID shots. Not doing any sort of shot ever, unless it just absolutely. If I think the virus is worse than the shot, I'll take the shot. But if it's hard to get a virus that bad because it kills all the people really fast. So it's hard to get it. You don't need it because it'll kill everybody. It doesn't spread throughout the world. But other than that, no, not in this lifetime will I participate in that process. But you guys do, and I understand that you do. So I just want you to know kind of how it works. But I don't care about the vaccine part of it. What I care about is, why did your immune system get weak in the first place? And second of all, do you understand what that lady just said, what that doctor just said about what happens when you take a vaccine? You stimulate your immune response, right? You fan the flame of the fire of inflammation, because inflammation is the initial stage of the immune response, right? I don't know how many times we've said that. We've said it a lot of times, over and over and over and over and over again, that the immune system, the initial phase of the immune system right there, is a very early stage is inflammation. So when you give yourself a shot, you take a vaccine or whatever, and you're going to stimulate, and you're just going to pour gasoline on the fire, and you're going to heighten your whole immune system. You're going to ramp everything up, and you're going to increase that inflammatory response. You're going to get all those. It's like hitting a wasp nest or a beehive with a broom. It's just, here we go. And in my world, in the wellness world, we're trying to keep that immune system calm. We're trying to keep that thing dampened. We're trying to keep that thing like low, keep that fire low. It's almost like a heater in your house. You got that pilot light on, and you want that pilot light to be on all the time, because whenever you need to kick that heater on, you want that, right? You want that pilot light to light up that whole heater, and so that your house will warm up. But the rest of the time, you don't want that pilot light blow. You don't want all that flame blowing all the time. You want to calm it down. So when you get a shot, you're getting that happening. And a lot of people are constantly getting shots all the time, and they're constantly fanning the flame to their immune system, and they're constantly hiding that flame. And if you listen to someone like Judy Mikovits, that'll tell you one of the things that she said, she's an AIDS researcher, she's a virologist, she's a super smart lady. I've mentioned her lots of times on the show. That's what she talks about. She talks about keeping that flame down. Keep your immune system calm. You don't need to get that immune system like fired up. So like just keep it calm. So just saw that article this morning. Thought you guys might want to hear it. Those things they're not free. They're not free of side effects. They're not free of consequences. Some people think they are. Some people just treat them like, oh, well, hey, it's just, it's not any big deal. We'll just get us another shot and just get us another shot, right? Just talking about wellness. Okay. Next thing I wanted to talk about is supplementation for a second. And I was talking to that young girl that I was telling you about, the high school girl. We got her on some B vitamins, and I was talking to her about taking them and staying on a regular basis and all that sort of thing. And I was using the analogy, and I thought it was a pretty good analogy. I thought I'd just share it with you tonight. And I did this. So I said, what if if you were trying to make an alphabet, and you were just going to go through the alphabet, and you were just going to be like, hang on, let me get a darker pen here. So you were going to draw out an alphabet. And for you guys on the radio, what I did is I just drew out the alphabet on a piece of paper here on the board. And if you were going to draw out an alphabet, but there were some things missing, and then I ask you to spell. Like, I want you to spell Jason. I want you to spell Jason with that alphabet right there. Well, what I did is I left out the J, I left out the O, I left out the S, I left out the W. So you got letters missing in your alphabet, right? So how are you gonna complete the picture? How are you gonna be able to spell the words? How are you gonna come across? What if I ask you to spell walk or sit? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with that? Because you don't have the alphabet. You don't have the letters in the alphabet in order to make the words, right? So you kind of look at that. I kind of look at that right there as the same idea of your diet and all of the nutrients that you need, all the vitamins, the vitamin C, the vitamin B, the vitamin K, the vitamin D, your A's, your E's, your all this stuff, right? All the minerals, your potassium, your magnesium, your electrolytes, all the things that you need, right? All of those things together, we got to get them in our environment. We got to either make them in our body or we got to get them from our diet, right? Well, what if our diet is incapable of supplying us with all of the pieces that we need? What if we're not eating enough good foods? What if we're eating a bunch of processed foods? Right? If we're eating processed foods all the time, then we're going to have a really hard time getting all the nutrients that we need in our diet. So we're going to have to supplement. So what are we going to do? We're going to have to try to find the things that we're missing. We're missing a J. We're missing an O. We're missing an S. We're missing a W. So that would be what's in my supplement box. of the things that I know I need in order to function properly. If my body was getting ready to make proteins, if my body was getting ready to make hormones, if my body was getting ready to build bone, make new skin, grow new hair, create ATP, patch up holes in my blood vessels, right? All those things that my body needs to do, it's going to go to the alphabet and it's going to try to find whatever tools it needs to give my body all of the pieces that it needs to heal itself. And what's going to happen if I'm low on some of those things, right? What if I'm trying to spell Mississippi and I only have one S? I can't do it, right? I don't have enough of, maybe I have an S, but I don't have enough of an S. So let's say that S is missing from the alphabet. We don't have an S there. And if we don't have an S there, then we have to supplement with an S. But what if we have to spell Mississippi? Everybody knows that one, right? Mississippi. We've been spelling that. That's one of the first words we ever learned how to spell, but way back in the day, right? Some people call it M-I crooked letter I for all of you young people that didn't grow up in the 80s. But my point is, if your body was trying to spell Mississippi and you were supplementing with an S, you better have enough of it in order to get all the nutrients that you need. And I find that happens a lot. Remember yesterday, checked my vitamin D, and my vitamin D was 74, right? We looked at that. My vitamin D levels are 74. I'm not a believer that I should supplement to the minimum. When I look at this blood work, I'm not really getting into it. I'm just trying to make a point right here. Is that the minimum is it's like 39 is the range. If you're below, and they don't even have the minimum in here right here. That's interesting. They don't even have a range on the blood work on this particular one. But on the last one I took, it was 39. You want your number to be greater than 39 if you're talking about vitamin D. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, if you're below 39, you actually get into sickness. Well, I don't want to live at the level just above sickness. That doesn't even make any sense to me. So if I may be taking vitamin D, but I may be taking 200 IUs of vitamin D a day, but I don't have enough of that vitamin D to get my body to have all it needs whenever it's being asked to do something, right? So there's a lot of difference between 200 IUs of vitamin D and 5,000 IUs of vitamin D. And sometimes what we do is we do supplement a little bit. We take a multivitamin or we take a fish oil. Fish oil is one, there's no question. Fish oil is 2.7 grams. That's the research that I've got in my studies. Is 2.7 grams, which is 2,700 milligrams, is the minimum threshold that you need in order to reach the levels that you need for your body to function the way it's supposed to. So I get people all the time that tell me, yeah, I take some fish oil, and then when you look at it, it's like 200 milligrams. 200 milligrams, right? Which doesn't get you there. We need 2,700 milligrams to get you there, and there's a range that goes up from there. And so in our office, that's why the 3,000 milligrams is the baseline. It's 3 grams of fish oil a day. If you get to that 3 grams of fish oil a day, now you've given your body enough of the EPA and the DHA to function properly so that you can optimize your health, right? So it's not just, so supplements to me, is, it's like, there's a lot of people, and it doesn't make a difference. You could get on the internet in 2 seconds and find 1,000 articles talking about how supplements are a waste of time and all they do is make expensive pee and all that stuff, right? Go ahead. I don't care. I'm not going to fight with you over that. You can do it however you want to do it, but I don't have any time for those people anymore. I'm too busy trying to get people to be healthy to have that argument that you can't get enough. And then the other thing is on the other side, or that it doesn't do any good. The other thing on the other side is that what if you just get too much? Like, what if you overdose? And really, I got very few people. There definitely are some things that you can get too much of, but that is almost never the problem. Like that is really almost never the problem. People do that. Sometimes that they do it with all kinds of different things. They're like, well, I think I got to be careful about my vitamin B levels because I could take too much. But then they'll drink a Diet Coke every day. Like they'll take aspartame, and any aspartame is too much, right? So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about overdosing on vitamins. I do think there's a good way of trying to figure out which vitamins you need. I think there's some good logic into trying to figure out how you need to supplement, but the supplement is the missing pieces to the puzzle that your body needs to keep you healthy, and I do think they are important. I think they're so important, I got my own brand of them that are now in our office that if you guys are interested in, we can get you some of those supplements as well. So, hey, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense to all you guys that are out there in Facebook land. Fish oil is just one of the pieces to the whole puzzle, right? But making sure that you get enough supplement, that I really do think that's a problem. That a lot of times we take some supplements, but we don't take enough supplements, and we really need to kick that up and go into a higher level of supplements in certain areas. And it's a little questionable. I understand how that could be confusing because you don't know how much is enough. But that's why in the office we try to use, we try to use objective measures now to determine are we low. Obviously, we can check things in your blood and your urine, right? We can see about where you are on certain things. We can check some of your vitamin levels. We can check your vitamin D level. We can check your omega-6-3 ratio level. We can check your homocysteine level, right? That's not a supplement. That's a marker of inflammation in your body. We can check your A1C levels. Like those are things that you can get checked and understand. But what are some of the ways that we determine whether or not your vitamin B level is enough? And the heart sound recorder and the heart rate variability are ways that we do that. The heart rate variability, I think, is super great. I'm so glad we've added that to the practice because it really does give us some information about parasympathetic and sympathetic function that you may not, that we didn't know before. I mean, you can tell me I'm tired, and you can tell me that you're not recovering and that you're tired all the time. But when I can run a test on you, and I could do your omega-6-3 ratio test, and I can actually see that you're not recovering, it really does make a lot of difference. So give me 1 second. Be right back. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Jason Clemmons. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. Just giving you some thoughts on this Wednesday night. Wednesday night's usually the book review night, and I'm going to touch just a little bit in the second segment about, I want to get back to the brain a little. It's been a while since we talked about the brain, but I want to get into that a little bit. But I've got like 3 or 4 books right now that I'm going through, and I'm trying to get them broken down to the point where I can show them on the radio. So I'm I don't really have a book for tonight for the book review night. I just have some different parts. I just have some different parts of the book. There we go. Sorry, I had that in my ear there. that I want to get to in just a second. But there's one more thing, and I know it's repetitive. I know you guys hear it, and I know I talk about it all the time. And the people that watch the show, maybe you get it, but I just really think it's important. I just really, really think it's important for you to get this concept. And if you've gotten this concept, then you're going to be like, are you seriously going to show us this concept again? But I want to. Then the reason I say that is because it happens every single day. Like there was another patient that came in today with, low back pain, and one of my low back pain people, and I'm trying to get him. I got him on the table, and I'm doing a little technique that I learned from Stu McGill, who's the world's most knowledgeable guy on low back pain, as far as I know. But I'm doing a little technique that I kind of picked up learning from Stu McGill, and I just want you to I want to think about it one more time. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about the brain and the frontal lobe. And I want you to think about the frontal lobe inhibits flexor muscles. Flexor muscles. From your waist up, the muscles on the front of your body are flexors. My bicep is a flexor. My forearm is a flexor. My SCM is a flexor. My pec muscle is a flexor. If I'm sitting with my shoulders rolled forward, if you're one of those people that sit with your shoulders rolled forward, get back over here. Look, this posture, right? This posture of standing here with forward head posture, rolled shoulders, and bent at the waist. So you're standing here, instead of being tall and straight, you've got forward head posture, rolled shoulders, and bent at the waist. That bending at the waist is flexion of the psoas muscle. It's a tight psoas, and the psoas muscle runs from the lumbar spine down to the front, through the pelvis, and attaches to the femur, your leg bone, your thigh bone. I know it. You've seen it before, but I want to just show you. There's your sacrum. Oh, that's not very good drawing right there. Here's your femur coming in here, running like that. Your psoas muscle, this is L3, L4, and L5. Your psoas muscle is going to run down here. It's going to run through the middle, and it's going to attach on the inside of that femur right there. And it's going to connect to all those lumbar vertebrae, and they're going to come down like that. And those are flexors right there. Okay, but I want you to understand that the tone of those flexors are controlled by your brain. And your brain, if your brain is losing charge, your flexor muscles are turning on, which means you're coming forward. My SCM's right here. That muscle right there is coming forward. You just take your that big thick muscle right there that's coming on your neck, runs from right up underneath your ear. Just turn your head in one direction and touch your neck, and you'll feel it. It runs from your ear down to your sternum right there. That's a flexor. If both my SCMs get tight, they pull my head forward and down, right? My shoulders, my pec muscle, do a bench press. If I do a bench press, I'm firing that whole pec muscle to pull. The pec muscle runs across the chest, onto the sternum, down around underneath, and it runs across and attaches to the humerus, which is the arm bone, right below your shoulder right there. And so if you're going to do like bench press, and you're going to press that, and you're going to fire that pec. What are you going to do? You're going to pull that humerus over closer to the midline of your body. When this muscle contracts, it pulls your shoulder inward. So if you're not consciously firing that muscle, then your brain is firing that muscle. And if your brain is increasing the tone, and that reminds me, I got to write this down because that's another one. Muscle memory. It's not a thing. I'll get into that in just a second. But you've got this increased amount of tone in that pec muscle is coming from your brain because your brain is lost its charge. Just like your phone, you know how you got that ability on your phone to make your phone brighter or make your phone dimmer, right? You got that little. Just imagine that your frontal lobe has become dim. It's lost its charge. It's starting to lose power. When your frontal lobe starts to lose power, it no longer inhibits, it no longer turns off your flexor muscle. And you're like, Jason, why are you talking about this again? Right? I know it, but I see it every single day, and I know you guys get it, but I just want you guys to go tell your friends about it, right? Get out there in the world and tell your friends about it, and let them know, hey, your frontal lobe's not working. You're not inhibiting. You got your shoulders rolled forward. You look like an ape. Like an ape that walks forward on his front feet, on his front hands. An ape that walks, they got their arms rolled forward. You check somebody's posture, and they're standing there, and you check their posture, and their arms are rolled forward, and you see the back of their hand like this. You don't see the bend of their thumb. You see the back of their hand because their shoulders are rolled forward, not out in extension. That's what's happening right there because their brain has calmed. It's losing its charge. So, guy comes into me today trying to put his pants on yesterday, hurt his low back. Now, why would you do that? Doesn't that sound silly? Doesn't that sound silly to hurt your low back putting on your pants? Nope. It doesn't sound silly if you're in flexion. So I got him on the table. He's sitting on the table. I got his arms crossed in front of him. I got my hand, I'm sitting on the side of him, and I got one hand on his arms crossed in front of me, and I got the other hand on his low back, and I'm trying to get him to go into extension. I'm trying to get him to go into extension. Why am I trying to do that? Well, I'm trying to do that because he's in flexion. So I'm looking at him from the side. So here's his face. Here's his lumbar vertebra. That's a bad picture. There's his face. And what he's like is this. That's not a good picture either. He's in flexion down there. He's bending forward he's sitting there slumped. And you could do it just sitting in your chair, right? Just slump yourself back. When you slump yourself back, you put your lumbar spine into flexion. When you let's blow that up right there. When you put your lumbar spine into flexion, what do you do to the disc that is sitting between them? That disc that's in there, you're going to smash this down in the front, and that nucleus in the middle of the disc is going to go backwards. And you're going to end up pushing that nucleus to the back, and that's where the nerves are that are running out the spine. They're down there on the back side, and now you're causing yourself to be in bad place. So what am I trying to do? I got one hand on his back, and I got the other hand on his arms, and I'm trying to get him to go into extension. Trying to get him to go into extension. But what am I fighting against? I'm fighting against his brain. What is it telling me about this guy? His brain is quitting on him. That's what it's telling me about him. You didn't hurt your back putting on your pants, because your brain was working good. Do we understand that? We don't hurt our back putting on our pants because our brain is working good. The only way that you do that is catch your toe by accident and then fall over and hit your dresser, and then maybe you might hurt your back. Okay. Don't act like I'm the only one that's ever done that, right? That's not true. I know you guys have done something like that in your lives too. There is, if you reach down and like you just reached down to pick up something, what had happened is you had lost your ability to adapt. It pushed it too far, and now it's in that position. And when I'm trying to get it to go into extension, I'm fighting it really, the patient, and not meaning to, it's super hard. I have to use a lot of force to try to get him to get into extension. So if you're that way, you're losing frontal lobe activity. You're losing your brain. And as you lose your brain, you lose your health. And you should be aware of that, because it's something that's super important, because it's just the way it works. You got to be able to get up. You got to be able to get yourself into extension. You got to be able to pick your body back up and get yourself into extension by activating your brain. Do your overhead touches. Do your pursuits. Do the activities that you have, that side steps, right? Keep your eyes up. Move your eyes back and forth. Get them above the horizon. Do the things that activates that upper brain. That's super important right there. Another thing I wanted to touch on before we get into the book, if we get into the books tonight, but another thing I wanted to touch on tonight was, I had a patient say to me, they have some reverse cervical curve, they have forward head posture, and they have knots in their shoulders. And they went and got shots in their shoulders, and trigger point therapy, some sort of shot that somebody gave them. And the person giving them the shot told them it was muscle memory that was causing that. They gave them the shot, and they told them, well, you want to get this shot because of the muscle memory, it will go back, right? And I don't know if I talked about this the other night, but I just started thinking about that sentence, muscle memory. And I've used it my whole life in athletics, and I've had coaches use it my whole life in athletics, about throwing a ball, about catching a ball, about punting a ball, whatever. Like, there's just like that muscle memory, right? And I started thinking about that, and I was like, that's not a thing. And I'll do some more research into it. So if I'm wrong, you guys can let me know, or I'll let you know. But I really don't think I'm wrong. I don't think that's a thing. It's not muscle memory. It's neurology. It's neural pathways. It's coordination of your cerebellum with your motor cortex and other parts of your brain, your vestibular system for balance, your visual system, like your hearing, your auditory system. There's a lot of things that are going on, and it's going on from the bottom of your foot all the way through to the top of your head. The muscle memory is not muscle memory, because if you take a muscle, that muscle's just doing what it's told to do. Now, you could have some adhesions. I'll say that. You could have some myofascial disruption. You could have the fascia that's around the muscle that's shrunk. The creep. You could have a little bit of connective tissue disorder type stuff, or connective tissue dysfunction, I should say. You could have some of that, and that might be causing you for that muscle to stay in a position that the nervous system is not working on. You can have, in an AMIT, we know that you can have a muscle that's completely turned off, that's not functioning properly, and the other muscles around it are adapting to the way that your body's moving, and that's causing you to be able to stay in that same position. But it's not muscle memory, it's neurology. It's brain memory. How do I get good at throwing a football? How do I get good at throwing a football to the exact place I want to throw the football to? I throw the football over and over and over and over again. But what am I doing? Am I creating muscle memory, or am I creating neurology memory? Am I creating a neural pathway, a brain pathway, a coordinated movement pathway that incorporates lots of different parts of my body that becomes so, we call it plastic. It's so, we've run it so many times that now it's just completely automatic, right? I could just do it automatically and without even thinking about it. It's on autopilot. That's neurology. That's not muscle memory. That's neurology. And we teach it as muscle memory, but we don't think about it. We don't think about it properly, I don't think. I don't think we think about it from a standpoint of, hey, that's the way the brain is firing. Because I think if you really start to get to where you can think about that, where you think about the brain is firing that way, then you start to understand, wow, like, yeah, there's a lot going on right there in the brain. There's a lot happening in the brain. What if my brain stops working? What are the things that might make my brain stop working? Right? Those are things that might be something that's important, that we want to get on our feet. We want to fire that brain properly. So we go back again, right? So now I've got that tight low back. I got that flexion. I'm sitting there and I can feel my abs collapse. I can feel my body go into that curve. I can feel my sacrum in my chair roll up underneath me. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in flexion right there. One of my guys on Monday just blew his low back, just flared it up big time. He's had that problem in the past. He's a guy that usually gets up and moves. But what did he do on Sunday? He sat around and watched TV all day long. And how did he do it? Probably in some cushiony chair that put him into flexion. So what did he do all day long? And Stu McGill does a great job of describing it this way, of toothpaste. If you had a roll of toothpaste and you rolled it up from the bottom and you took a pin and you stuck it in the side of that toothpaste tube, and then you kept rolling up that toothpaste from the bottom, it would just start oozing out. That toothpaste would just start oozing out, right? Well, think about what you're doing in that by over and over squeezing. It's like squeezing a ketchup bottle, squeezing the ketchup bottle, squeezing the ketchup bottle, squeezing, and you're just pushing on that nucleus that's in the middle of that disc. And that nucleus that's in the middle of that disc is working its way backward over the day. You're squeezing it, you're in flexion, and you're firing that thing up. And now you're going over and over backwards. It's pushing it back, and now you bulge it out, or you get it to the outside 1/3 of the disc. The outside 1/3. The disc has an annulus. That's a hard outer shell. It's got rings on it. The inside is the nucleus. That's what I'm talking about. That's the toothpaste that oozes. And let's call this the front and this the back. And when you go into flexion, you're pushing the direction of the annulus out this direction in the back. And when you're pushing that, the nerve supply comes in to the outer 1/3. That nerve supply, the outer 1/3 of that disc out there, has innervation. And so you push on that nucleus and you keep pushing on it and you keep pushing on it. A lot of times what it does is it finds a little pinhole and it works its way through here. Then it finds another little pinhole and it works its way through there. But then you start getting it accumulated right there. You're going to hit that disc and you're going to get on the outside. You're going to cause yourself some pain, right? And that's going to cause a problem. And now the annulus will start to bulge around where that is. And if you get on the spinal cord, now all of a sudden you're going to have pain that runs down your leg. Same thing happens in your neck. Wherever you bulge a disc, that's where it's happening. So I know it's repetitive. It's repetitive to talk about that, but it's repetitive because I see it all the time. And I don't think that people quite understand. Like when that thing goes wrong, what you got to do is you got to get up on the back side of that disc. You got to raise in your brain. You got to raise yourself up and just move back just a little, just enough that if you had a marble sitting on top of your vertebrae, that you just move that marble backwards just a touch. That's all you needed, from not much, just a little bit back right there, and pick yourself up and sit on the back edge of that. See if you can get to that position and see if you could ease that nucleus back to the middle of that disc. But fire your brain. Get your eyes up. Do your movement of your head. Move your head through your ranges of motion to get your brain to fire properly. That rotation, there's a neurological component of that rotation that's related to these SCM muscles and the cerebellum that fires across to the other side of the brain. So that whole motor movement pathway is getting, and plus when you get your eyes up and you have to move your eyes up and move them back and forth, it's coordinated. Any movement in the body is coordinated through the cerebellum. Like you need to be able, just moving your hands, you got to be able to coordinate that. You got to be able to sit up, to move. Your brain's functioning. Like there's so many things that your brain does, like every single second. 3 trillion bits of information per second going through your brain, right? So, yeah. So that just wanted to go over it again. We basically have eaten up all the time on this show tonight. I've only got about just a little under 3 minutes left, and so I don't want to get into the Maps of Meaning book and the stuff that I was going to talk about tonight. And I was just going to touch on a little bit of it because the Maps of Meaning is a very deep book. It's really hard to read. But this is it. You guys have seen it before. Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson. Great book. Love it to death. Of course, my all-time favorite, second one to the Bible, Master and His Emissary. Love this book. Explains a lot about how your health is going. Almost can explain all of health in this book right here in some form or fashion. So love those 2 books. Hey, and last thing, if you need, since we talked about supplements, if you need some supplements and you want some good quality supplements, then we've got the rock.standardprocess.com that you can get good quality supplements out there if you're interested in them. And then what we did, in order for me to have a little bit of freedom in my office, I picked out some supplements, and we kind of have developed our own brand here in the office, the Rock Health and Wellness Center. So this is some vitamin D3 with K right here, and this is 5,000 IUs of vitamin D, and we're selling it at the office with our own branding now. So one of the things that it gives me a chance to help you out if you're interested about some supplements, and it gives me a little bit of control over the cost of them, so I can control that a little bit better, and I can talk about supplements a little bit better, because sometimes the supplement companies are pretty particular about what they let you talk about and what they won't. Standard Process is, we have become partners enough with Standard Process that they have allowed us to set up that shop, so you can go, if you go to the rock.standardprocess.com, you can order your supplements yourself. I recommend that we have a consultation about them just to make sure. But if you know that there's something, you want some Catalin, you want some Cyruta, which is the vitamin C, the Tuna Omega, you want the detox program, whatever it is, if you want to get it, you can get it for yourself. You can go to that website. You can get it for yourself, and those are good quality supplements that you got right there. If you want some, like you want some vitamin D, we got a couple different ones that we got. It's got some a multivitamin for men and women, and then there's a sleep aid that we got that is part of our package as well. So we pretty much ate up all the time. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you have a great evening. We will be back on the radio tomorrow night at 6. And otherwise, you guys have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.